Hey guys, this is a midweek analysis for December 14th of 2022. Okay, we'll start off with the Eurjpy. This is a weekly chart. We'll start off with an overview of the current setup I'm looking at. So the last weekly long trade, that form was right here. And the last weekly short trade, that form was about a month ago, right here. And then moreover, about 2 weeks ago, right in this section, we had confirmation that this weekly bias is short, or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot low before reaching this pivot high. And so I was mentioning, if I get a pullback right up to these 147.20 levels, I'll be willing to take a short entry with a stop loss at this pivot high and this main target right down here. All right, however, this week, right in this area right here, the confirmation was reversed and we had some strong long confirmation, confirming that this weekly bias is actually long, or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. Okay, so let me show you how I plan to trade this setup. First of all, let me show you the strong long confirmation that formed right here this week. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so on this 4-hour chart, try drawing this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. See, at this point right here, we had a breakout and immediate break back in, showing normal short strength. However, price came right back up to that pivot high to create strong long strength. And so at this point, that weekly bias was confirmed to be long by this lower time frame confirmation. Okay, so in terms of how I'm going to trade this setup, there's many dynamics to it. Now, number one, the stop loss in this case will be placed at the major pivot low of where the strong long confirmation formed, and that'll be this pivot right here. Okay, so the stop loss in this case will be placed right here, and that's because this is a mid-road entry type, and mid-road entry types can only be used when there's overarching strength in the direction of the trade. Okay, so recall for the last year or so, I was mentioning that there's overarching strong long strength on this pair to begin with. And thus, if I'm going to take a long entry, that's going to give me an opportunity to have a tighter stop loss, which is at this point right here. Now that's in comparison to traditional bias entries, where the stop loss and targets are placed on the higher time frames risk parameters. Okay, so that's number one. This is a mid-road entry, so the stop loss will be placed at the major pivot low right here. And number two is that I'm going to need a pullback right down to these 141.70 levels right here for about 100 pip stop loss. Now typically, I will take a 200 pip stop loss for this type of entry because I am trading in the overarching strength direction. However, in this case, since we are in the month of December and I'm expecting the markets to be very rangy, I'm only willing to take a long entry if I could get a very nice pullback. Okay, and number three is that if price does pull back to my entry level, I'm always watching for any current price to show strong short strength, which in case if it does, I will not be taking this long entry, for current price is likely to override this strong long strength and come right back down to this pivot low right here, where my stop loss will be placed. Okay, and number four is on the weekly chart, so let's go over there. Okay, so again on this weekly chart, the last long trade that formed was right here, while the last short trade formed right here. Now, this week's candle right here closes as a green candle, or in other words, if the close is above the open, that's going to be a new weekly long trade that formed. And if you watch my lesson on bias changes, you'll know that when a new trade forms within a given bias, the lower time frames confirmations get reset. Okay, so in order for me to take that mid-row long entry with a stop loss at this pivot low right here, I'm going to also need this week's candle to not end with a green candle. Okay, because if this week's candle ends up as a red candle, that will not indicate a new weekly long trade at this point right here. Okay, so there's many things I have to watch out for in this case, which is actually very common during this season when trading liquidity is very low. Okay, so we'll just see what happens with this one, and I'll keep you guys updated, guys. So that's it for the midweek analysis. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, bye.